Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com. With Dynamics 365 still so new in the market, many people are still trying to understand what exactly they are looking at. For existing Dynamics AX and CRM customers, Dynamics 365 represents the future of their investment, assuming they still believe in Microsoft's vision. And for new prospects, the new brand name is, by all accounts, sparking interest. But partners are learning that it requires some careful explanation about what is and isn't part of the solution platform. So those partners are hard at work educating their customers and prospects on the promise of Dynamics 365. We recently wrote about one such effort by Microsoft partner AXMentor at the time they were planning a new regional event in California for customers and prospects focused on the Dynamics 365 enterprise apps, formerly AX and CRM. And the event covered new cloud services like Power Apps and Flow, since Dynamics 365 is so closely related to those. Now that the event is over, we caught up with two of the event's organizers, AXMentor product manager Deborah Wittich and marketing and sales manager Amir Khoshnayati, to hear more about how the conference went. So, Deborah Wittich and Amir Khoshnayati, thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you for having us.
Great to be here.
So I want to start maybe by just asking for a recap of your Evolve event. We learned a little bit about it in a preview article, and I'm interested to hear how it actually went. So, Amir, can you give us a little bit of a recap to start things off?
Sure. So this event was a 2-day event in partnership with Microsoft, and what we were really trying to accomplish was outfitting business and technical decision makers with the information necessary to make a decision on ERP in general, or their current investments with Dynamics, whether that means extending the life cycle of what they've currently built out, or if it meant actually upgrading them to the latest version, which is Dynamics 365. What we currently have seen in the market is a lot around feature functionality on Dynamics 365, but the content hadn't really been in depth as far as what the right decisions were around the modules, the applications, and the licensing. So what we tried to do is outfit this both on a personal basis in a general session, and also take them into breakout sessions with Microsoft's assistance to see how that they could best leverage this to their industry vertical.
Yeah, I can imagine there are a lot of individual questions that people have depending on their own situation. I mean, Deborah, you having a lot of one-on-one conversations and hearing different needs from different kinds of companies.
Yeah, definitely. It really is a function of, who the company representative was. Some people were coming from more of a technical standpoint and were really interested in learning about deployment scenarios, where, folks on the accounting or C-suite level really wanted to know about some of those bottom line figures. How much is this going to cost me? What does it mean for my current investment? What is my current investment worth in this new cloud scenario? And then also with the vertical flavor thrown in there too. So when you're like, hey, I'm coming from public sector, it brings, a whole plethora of other considerations to the table. So having those Microsoft experts there really helps guide them through that decision-making process.
Well, maybe you could talk a little bit about what you actually heard, like in the keynote session from Microsoft. What message were they bringing to the people who attended, who are, let's say, existing Dynamics customers? Amir, could you characterize that message they took from the keynote?
Sure. So the topic was really around digital transformation. We touched upon what that really means to customers and the purchasing cycle. We touched upon the productivity and what that means, and essentially what it means overall to business strategy and business outcomes. Once we established all that, we then brought in Dynamics 365 and tied it all together. So we touched upon customers themselves, we touched upon employees, we touched upon intelligence built in, and then automation. And then through these themed basically the second half of the discussions on day one, which were primarily around Azure Cloud, Security, IoT, and Cortana. And then essentially turned the conversation to day 2, which was more of a technical track. But throughout all these tracks, digital transformation was the recurring theme that we saw.
Are companies responding well to that notion of a software company talking to them about digital transformation? Do you think they hear that message, or are they redirecting the conversation elsewhere?
I think a lot of companies are receptive to it and they understand the inherent value of going cloud, but they still have a lot of consideration. So I think Microsoft's done a good job of promoting the cloud and providing information about it, but also being dedicated to respecting the investment that their current customers have made. And so people are still trying to wrap their head around, a lot of it comes down to licensing and how they take what they currently have and transition it over. So that's an ongoing path, and Microsoft's still coming out with some new information about that and how it applies to those businesses. But I think overall, companies are positive, they're receptive to it, and they see the value in it, and they're excited about it. And that was one of the really interesting things I saw was, some actual like light bulbs go off and eyes light up and like, oh, that is really cool. And, they can see how going forward this will really help them. And so it's definitely more of a positive message than a negative, like, you guys in software have no right to talk to me about how to run my business. It's like, oh, let's work at this. It's not perfect, but we're excited and we can see the value in it.
I was just looking back at the exact dates of the event. It was March 1st and 2nd. And right in that time frame, Microsoft also sort of confirmed that for 365 for operations, they're now going to support a local option for that. Did that come up at the event, or was the event a little too early for that announcement?
It did come up at the event, and Amir, feel free to chime in. So Shri had put out a blog the Friday before Evolve, kind of bringing up the high-level points of what local business data was and how, an on-prem solution will come to fruition. So we were aware that, we had been aware that they were thinking of something like this. They had said it in the past with their hybrid options, and now it's just becoming more defined. So it was good timing in that the blog posting came out and we were able to address some of that stuff in real time. And then to have, as a bookend on the Friday after Evolve, have, the rest of the Microsoft staff actually come out in a town hall and, dig a little deeper and provide more info to back up that information.
From the tone I had heard from existing AX customers going back to the fall of last year, that was a big deal, that there were a lot of companies that really wanted to hear that Microsoft would support that. Did you get any sort of specific comments from customers? Did you hear anything when Microsoft did put that on the table as a new option? Because you guys must have been some of the very first to actually get to talk about it with anyone from Microsoft.
Absolutely. The reception seemed very positive that Microsoft is now listening to feedback, and AXUG was also in attendance. And one of their sessions was geared around how taking in customer feedback is actually being put into the product. So this is a good sign that Microsoft is making adjustments based on the feedback they're hearing. But on the other side of it is really this apprehension that we had seen in Q4 of last year about this cloud-only model seems to have dropped a little bit. We were seeing a lot of questions geared around the licensing session. People liked the scalability and also the flexibility around the current licensing model on the cloud side. And the reception that we got was overall positive, that this is steps in the right direction, both from a user standpoint, but also from a product standpoint. Now that we're finding that Dynamics 365 is integrated, they have flexibility on the apps, and it looks a lot more promising than where we stood with the haziness around Q3 and Q4 of last year.
Yeah, I've got to agree. I think I was still a little surprised that just because I didn't know that announcement was coming, but I think I've heard a lot of sort of sighs of relief, I guess, from partners too, but also from AX customers. And I think my guess is that maybe you can comment on this, but the prospects too aren't all thinking cloud yet, that there are companies shopping for, ERP. Probably not as many as there used to be, but still some that want to see if there's an on-premise option, if they still have data center investments or whatever other reason.
Absolutely. And the key theme here was education over the 2 days. And what we're fielding right now is a handful of questions at the tail end right now on what may be the best fit. And it's no size fits all by any means. So what we're kind of summarizing as an average of the feedback we're providing is a hybrid solution seems to be the best case for many people that want to protect their local investments here, but also have the right disaster recovery components built in so that they can have a backup, because unexpected things can happen, whether it's fully hosted or if it's on the edge side, which they've coined.
Yeah, I mean, and just to sort of take it back to maybe some of the industry-specific areas that AXMentor focuses on or that were featured at the event, manufacturing in particular, I would think, would be an area where people are particularly interested in hybrid. At least that's how one of the things Microsoft's been saying. Was that, or did any other sort of vertical specific issues really jump out at you guys as being particularly important at the event?
Yeah, I would definitely piggyback on the manufacturing argument because those customers have been the most vocal about needing an on-prem option. So it behooves them to know that there is an option out there. I mean, some of it is still unclear exactly what you need to make that option come to life, but just having, especially in their line of work and needing to have that kind of robust performance when you are getting your orders in, especially when they're custom orders. You need that type of performance that can't get sacrificed when you have orders coming in constantly and at a high volume. So, I mean, the cloud, the Microsoft cloud, and those production systems of 365 are, built to scale and handle that volume. But from a manufacturing standpoint, they want that peace of mind knowing that they don't have to worry about, something might not having the ability to scale at a second's notice.
Okay, yeah, that certainly seems to line up with what I've sort of heard Microsoft, the way Microsoft would position that. But at the same time, also, I mean, some of those scenarios with hybrid aren't quite there yet, as I understand, right? Like there's a retail POS scenario, and there are some manufacturing scenarios coming. So customers are still kind of awaiting, or are going to sort of wait and see on that, or prospects are going to sort of wait and see on what those really look like, right? Like in the next few months.
Yeah, I think, within the tech conference is coming up this Sunday. So I think by next Wednesday, a lot of that will be a lot more clear, not only from, a hybrid standpoint of how that setup looks, but also, the migration and upgrade tools that are available to people too. So I think a lot of those questions will be answered sooner than later. So I think it would be more of a matter of a few weeks than a few months. But yeah, you don't know until it's official.
Yeah, it's hard to really count on a particular detail until you've seen it go live and launch. Until then, you really can't be 100% sure, I guess. Yeah. So you did mention the technical conference, which I know it's really been getting. It's starting to trend a bit as a discussion point for folks especially in the partner channel. Is your team going to be on hand at that and paying attention to some of those additional details?
Yes, there are 3 of us going out there, myself included, and our infrastructure director, as well as one of our developer leads. So we'll be out there ready to absorb all the great information that'll be coming our way. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Excellent. What else would you say that, in looking back on the event, it was the first time running it. It sounds like an eventful event. It sounds like it was a lot of fun from what you've said so far. Anything you took away from it that you weren't expecting?
We saw a lot of interest around Power Apps, and we definitely were. We knew that the right questions were going to come around it. We just didn't know that it was going to be a topic of interest throughout. So we actually had a presentation around Power Apps, basically going into the details of how you can act and make an app in a certain amount of time, and really what the feature functionality looks like after it's done. And what we found was a challenge by one of the audience members of how it may not be as easy to create an app as we're kind of making it seem like it would be. So we made an impromptu session after lunch and essentially created an app in less than 10 minutes in a high-pressured environment in front of the whole audience, and actually showcased it working all the way through to Dynamics AX. So it was a pretty neat feature functionality showcase for the audience, and we actually fielded a handful of questions the day after on that topic. So good takeaway.
Yeah, for sure. Power Apps is a big one for the future. It's interesting to hear that companies are actually thinking about how they might use it, because I know that mobile apps is certainly an area where companies, I think many of them don't have enough yet that hooks into their ERP.
Absolutely, yeah. And then kind of building on that topic, we also touched on the points of Power BI and Flow as well. So we had about a 45-minute session directly on Power BI. We showcased the options that people have. We showcased them how easy it is to download the app and view it on mobile and tablet. And the lunch on the first day actually was primarily based upon people going through the Power BI portal and basically downloading the content packs to view and slice and dice their data. So it seemed like that topic had been announced but not fully deep dove, and it was good to tie it into the 365 model as a full ecosystem item.
One of the things I'm always curious about when it comes to events like this one is sort of getting a read on how informed people are before they show up. If they're existing AX or CRM customers, or maybe they're just sort of prospective customers, and they're sort of like, how would you rate people's level of education before they got to the event? Were they fairly advanced already, you think, or did you have to step way back and start from an early point to get them kind of up to date on where things are at in the product line?
We were actually pretty surprised by the audience's knowledge on 365. It seemed that many of them had heard the term but didn't understand really what full umbrella encompassed. That was the first idea, because we took a poll and we wanted to start with an introductory session on what 365 is. We actually ended up spending about 30 minutes extra just kind of going through the components and understanding how CRM tied to AX, and then how basically the model then encompassed Office 365. And it was interesting to take a poll and basically ask how many people are running Office 365 and how many have auto-updated to the cloud version, and didn't actually know that they were about a third of a step towards the 365 suite just with that move. So it was a messaging that had been kind of repurposed since Q3 last year, but it was surprising to see how many people actually had known really the details underneath that messaging.
One of the things I've heard elsewhere, and I'm curious if you guys have observed this too, is that the Dynamics 365 brand is actually starting to generate a lot more interest than maybe some partners expected. And they're getting, I was talking to one partner who was talking about a real influx already of interest because people have heard of 365, that Microsoft's, I guess, marketing efforts are really starting to bear out, maybe to an unexpected degree for some people. Have you seen people sort of awareness of the 365 brand growing when you talk to companies nowadays?
Definitely. I mean, it's a very catchy name, and because Office 365 has been around for some time, people immediately resonate towards it. So it immediately sounds familiar to a lot of people. So in that regard, yes, I think the marketing engine is really starting to gain cadence and, full steam ahead. And then also, and I know Amir had actually found this, but Nucleus Research had put out kind of a leader chart when it comes to ERP, and Microsoft Dynamics 365, is that front runner moving, into that upper right quadrant. And so I think, that's just almost like a fallout of this familiarity with the brand, familiarity with, Microsoft isn't just, the Office suite, it's providing so much more. And people are excited about it because they didn't, I don't think, initially realize how much you're getting with going with Dynamics 365. It's more than just CRM, it's more than just ERP, it's an ecosystem. You get it all, and you get a really robust platform to back that up.
So you've got one Evolve under your belt. Are you looking at future events already, or are you just getting back to work, working with customers? What's next?
Definitely. We're looking at announcing, hopefully within the next 3 weeks, our next event. We had over 100 attendees in a matter of about a month and a half promotion on this one. So we're actually, the concern right now is finding the next venue rather than picking the date. And we're excited to roll out at least 2 of these per year, if not more. And what we're looking to do is not only represent the product from a partner standpoint, but tie in the right resources from Microsoft, both from a product and vertical standpoint, and also tie in the right ISV partners into these tracks so that they can talk best practices and educate people on how to really extend their current investments and how to best apply them to the future and roadmap them for that.
Nice. Deb, anything else you'd add? Takeaways from the event?
It was really exciting and refreshing to see how excited people were. And it was definitely, if we were ever questioning if we should put on a second event, it was an overwhelming yes, we should, because people want the information, and especially when it's in a place that they can easily get to. So I think just overall great takeaways in terms of not only logistics for us on, space and venues and things like that, but just that, people are interested in, people like the information and like having those access points. And from a Microsoft standpoint, like Amir said at the beginning of the discussion, getting that customer feedback, that real end user feedback, these forums are a great opportunity for that. And, I think that it'll be a really good opportunity for them to, again, get in front of the customers and hear what they have to say. So, we're really excited to put on the next big show.
We'll be looking out for it and hopefully getting another update when you do. Well, Deb, Amir, thanks so much for talking with me today. It was fun. We'll have to do it again sometime soon.
Yeah, thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Jason. Looking forward to it.
Thanks for listening to the MSDW podcast. If you'd like to be on the podcast or have a comment, drop us a line. Again, I'm Jason Gumpert. You can reach me by email at jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World signing off.